Hey guys, so today we're going to be making plant-based or vegan omelets using just egg. It is a plant-based alternative to the real egg, and we're trying to go vegan, so we're going to give this a shot today. So what we'll be doing is using the just egg. We also have some Beyond sausage, Beyond meat, Beyond sausage. I know they say that it's also processed, but it's better than eating regular meat, so that's what we're using today. We're not going to use it all the time. And then we have some vegetables. We have some green bell peppers and also other different color bell peppers that are already chopped up and ready to be added. We have some green onions. I love the flavor of green onions. It makes almost everything taste so much better. So that's what we'll be using today, also with some regular white onions, because you can just never go wrong with using onions. All right, so we also have some dairy-free cheese. Those are cheese slices, actually. I'm very specific or particular about my cheese because all dairy-free or vegan cheese just doesn't taste that good. So first off, we're going to shake up the just egg. They say pour 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons equals 1 egg. So we're going to go ahead and open that right on up. And we're going to go ahead and measure out to make sure that I want a 2 egg omelet or a little more, just to make sure that there is more egg than vegetable in the omelet. So we're going to go ahead and measure that off. Put that on up in the cup there. Measuring. And I'm looking so serious because I'm so focused. I want my omelet to be just right. So we're going to make sure that we have enough to make a 2 egg omelet, maybe 2.5 eggs. We'll just see how it goes, but we're definitely trying for a 2 egg omelet. So next up, we're going to go ahead and basically saute some onions, because we do need to go ahead and get the sausages cooked, because we're going to later chop up the sausage and put them inside the omelet. So we're going to just lightly coat the bottom of the skillet with grape seed oil, which they say is a healthy alternative than regular oil or grease. So we're going to go ahead and use grape seed oil, and we're going to go ahead and put in some white onions, because sauteed onions just gives everything a better flavor. It's a nice flavor when you add sauteed onions to just about any dish, really. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that the stove is on and everything is in place. Move everything on out the way. Put that onion right on there. Let it saute. I always recommend that you saute the onions until like a clear substance. Basically where you go, I almost lost them there. Let me turn that around, make sure I ain't messing up nothing. So we're going to saute that, get that simmering and cooking real good. Make sure those onions are cooking thoroughly and evenly, so that we don't want any burnt pieces and then raw pieces. We want to make sure everything's cooking the same. And I'm left-handed, so I have to turn the skillet to where it fits me and it's comfortable for me while I'm cooking. So we're going to go ahead and saute those onions on up. Make sure everything is nice and gets the smelling so good. I love the way sauteed onions smell. Make sure the oven is the right temperature. Because we're going to go ahead and keep on sauteing the onions. Just making sure, looking like a chef. You see how they flick of that wrist? Make sure them onions are sauteed evenly. Pour a little sea salt in that thing. Stir that up because we want them nice and flavored well. Of course we do. Why not? So we're going to go ahead and do that. Keep on sauteing those onions. See? You saw that. I know you did because I showed it to you. Alright, we're going to just keep on sauteing and doing what we do right here. Sauteing on and on. I don't know what I just said, but hey, sauteing. Making sure the onions are nice and translucent is what they like to. What I've heard that they like to use. Every time somebody sautees onions, that's what they say. Saute them till they're translucent, meaning that you can see through them. Alright, so I'm just reading the instructions to make sure that I cook the sausage the way that is recommended. The recommended way is on the skillet and brown on each side, just to make sure that it's done all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple pieces in there. I'm going to go ahead and cut it up so that it can, to me, it cooks better and quicker when you cut it up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces up and put them in, combine them with the sauteed onions, because I'm going to cut the sausages up anyway to put them in the omelet. So you might as well just go ahead and get that on out the way. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me again. Bless me. So we're going to go ahead and cut those up. Put them in pretty good sizes so where you can actually taste them in the omelet. You don't want too small of a piece, and you don't want them too big either, because you won't be able to close the omelet up that well. So that's what we're going to do right here. Just go ahead and cut that on up. Put them over in there with the onions. You can hear the sizzle. Yeah, it smells like sausage. I was worried at first, but it does smell like sausage. And that's a good thing, because that's what we're going for. And then we're going to continue to cut them up, because it's just really me and my one of my children that is trying to be vegan with me. So I'm not cooking for just everybody in the house, so I don't have to cook as much. So I'm just going to go ahead and just cut up a couple pieces of sausage to fit for me and her one omelet. So this is like a two people meal. So we're going to go ahead and put those sausages in there, and then probably have like a couple pieces extra to put on top of the omelet. And that's fine, because we just a little bit greedy and we just want a little bit more than what we should. So we're just going to go ahead and get that on in there, stir that up, get those juices combined, and let the sausage juices mingle with the onion juices, let the onion juices mingle with the sausage juices, and let everything just combine together and make such a delicious meal. It's going to make the omelet taste so good, because I'm cooking with love. So we're going to combine all that together and saute. The onions are now really sauteed. So now we're just combining that delicious flavor with the Beyond sausage. And it also gives it a more, whatever the flavor is of the sausage, I know that the onions are going to make it even more delicious. So if it's slacking anything or lacking any type of meat flavor, the sauteed onion normally is going to make up for whatever is missing. At least that's what I hope that it does. So we're just going to keep sauteing that. Make sure it's done. Make sure that it's evenly cooked, because I don't want no raw pieces of plant-based or Beyond meat. I can only imagine. So now we're going to add the veggies into the Just Egg mixture. I like more egg than I like vegetables. So I want to make sure that I have enough egg that it coats the vegetables, and I don't have too many vegetables, because I don't want my omelet too chunky. So I'm going to make sure we got the temperature right on the stove. And we're going to go ahead and add all the vegetables in. We have the onions, the bell peppers, the green onions, and just make sure that everything is added on in there to give it just this delicious flavor. And it's going to be so healthy, because not only is this not a real egg, but it's full of vegetables as well. I'm going to pour a little more Just Egg in there, because like I stated, I don't like my omelets to be too chunky. I like it to be more egg than vegetables, but I do like to taste my veggies. So I just make sure that it's kind of evenly distributed, or the egg is a little more. So we're going to stir that up, get that all mixed up together, because what is going to happen is the outside of the omelet is going to be just egg and veggies. The inside of the omelet is going to be the Beyond Meat sausage and onions and cheese. So I put a little bit of sea salt in my egg mixture just to give it a better flavor. Got to make sure I don't forget about my sausage and onions. Don't want it to stick to the pan. I want to go ahead and make sure we stir it up so it can be cooked evenly, because you don't want one side burnt, one side raw. You want everything cooked evenly. So we're going to make sure that that's done. I like my sausage to have like a little crisp, not burnt, but just a little crisp. So I think I cut the stove down, the oven top down, well, the stove top, excuse me, down just to make sure that it doesn't cook too fast, especially because it's almost done anyway. So I can go ahead and put the small skillet on the stove top, because we're going to go ahead and start the omelet to cooking. So we're going to get to doing that. And what we're going to do first, what am I looking for here? I'm always looking for something. So let's see. We're going to go ahead. We're going to, oh, mini dancing break. I was looking for a knife. She handed it to me. So she handed me the knife. I'm going to go ahead and put a little veggie, well, it's plant-based butter. I think it's avocado butter. And we're going to go ahead and swirl that around on the bottom of the skillet to make sure that it's melted so that my omelet does not stick. I honestly put a little too much butter in here because it doesn't take that much butter to make sure that the omelet doesn't stick. So I'm going to let that sizzle and melt down while I stir up my onions and sausage, just to keep that cooking and make sure that it's not burning, and to make sure that it's evenly cooked, as I stated before. So we're going to stir that up. Those fragrances are combining together. I know I'm doing a good job. I feel it. I'm looking so focused and serious because my food is finna be delicious. I can feel it. I already know it. I smell it. It's in the air already. Ain't no burning scent. It's just good flavor. Good flavored scents flowing in the air. So we're going to cut that down. Make sure everything's looking good on time. Alright, we're going to swirl that butter around. I noticed that it's a little too much butter, so we're going to pour that off into the egg mixture because there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to stir that on up in there to make sure that it's evenly in there as well. Avocado butter is so good to me because it actually does taste like butter. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that on up in there to make sure it's still mixed together. Very good. I'm going to pour the egg mixture in the frying pan, in the skillet. The egg omelet, well, the omelet normally takes a good little bit of time for all the juice to turn into a solid. You don't want I don't want a runny omelet. I like my omelet to be solidified. I don't like any juice showing. So I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to go ahead and start on the next batter that I need for the next omelet coming up. But I'm going to let that omelet sit, let the bottom of it cook, make sure that it's actually not burning, but also make sure that it's cooking all the way through. And most of the time you can tell that it's cooking all the way through when the top starts to bubble, because that means that the bottom is actually cooked. And you want to make sure you pay attention because you don't want the bottom to burn. So that's what we got to make sure we keep paying attention to, but it does take a minute to get there. So I'm just going to make sure that all the juices and things are still atop until they start to look like it's solidified. That's when I'm going to need to either flip it over, or just make sure that it gets done that way. So I'm adding the other vegetables inside the next omelet that I'm about to prepare. Again, one is for me and one is for my daughter. Everybody else in the house still eats meat, and we are trying to be vegan or plant-based. So that's why we basically prepare our meals separate. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of that, everything that I added from the first omelet into the second one. Stir it up. Make sure everything is blended together. Make sure that the egg to vegetable ratio is more, because I like for my eggs to be more in quantity than the vegetables. So I'm going to just stir that up. Now I'm going to just pay attention to my omelet to make sure that everything is cooking the way it should. It's like everything seems to be going good so far. I'm going to check the bottom because you can always make sure to see. And I like to unstick my omelet because, of course, as with a normal egg, and just egg to me cooks just like a regular egg. So you want to unstick it from the sides, because if I want to flip it over, then you want to make sure that the sides are not sticking to the sides of the frying pan. So I make sure to unstick the sides, and I kind of tilt the frying pan to get those juices. That's whatever's on top. I flip the sides up, and I let the juices kind of run to those sides so it can go ahead and cook as well, just to help it cook more thoroughly throughout the omelet. So that's what we're doing now. just making sure that it's not wet on top. And we're just gonna let those juices slide to the side and go ahead and cook, as the bottom is basically already cooking as well, because again, we don't want a wet omelet. So we're just gonna make sure that it's not sticking. I'm gonna stand up, because you gotta stand up to make sure it's getting the way it's supposed to be getting. And I can tell that it's still wet. That's what makes me nervous, because if you flip it too fast, it's gonna turn into a scrambler. I don't want a scrambler, I want an omelet. So I gotta make sure that the bottom and the sides are cooked, because if you move it before it's cooked, it's gonna fall apart and you no longer have an omelet. You have a scrambler. Who wants a scrambler? Not me. I want an omelet. So I want to make sure that everything is being cooked to what it's supposed to be, and we're looking for solidification here. So we're just making sure that the sides aren't sticking, but we also want to make sure that it's a solid. So we're just going to keep poking around the sides, because we don't want it to stick like that. So what I'm going to do is sit a plate on top, because my daughter just educated me. Well, I kind of already knew, but she let me know if you put a plate on top, it helps cook the top with the bottom. So I went ahead and put a plate on top so that it can be cooking on top as well, so I don't have to worry about the juices being on top. Little dancing break, little intermission. And we're just going to go ahead and let that do what it does. Let the heat go ahead and surround the omelet and cook it even more. Let me peek at it, and it's working. Okay. I already knew that. And I'm just, I'm excited. So I'm just making sure all the juices, and making sure that the top is not wet, because I'm just not into that. And I have to stand up, because I feel like if I sit down, I'm going to mess it up. So standing up is basically me supervising my skillet to make sure everything comes out the way that I am anticipating. So it looks to be more solidified. I can tell that it is cooking thoroughly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of these sausage and some of the onion, and I'm going to go ahead and put that inside the omelet, because that's what we want. We want the sausage and the omelet inside with the cheese. Now, because of the type of cheese that I have, for some reason it is so hard to find a cheese that actually melts. This cheese I got from Walmart. It's dairy free, and it actually does melt. It might take a little longer than regular cheese, but it does melt. So I always get this type of cheese. Again, it slices and it's dairy free. I think it's Heartland or something like that, but it's dairy free cheese. So we're trying to be vegan and plant-based. So that's a great way to start, dairy free cheese. So we're going to go ahead and put the cheese inside the omelet. And we already got the sausage and the onions in there. We folded it over so that can go ahead and melt that cheese. And we got those. Everything's combined together. The omelet is looking like an omelet. You go, girl. You did it. That, my friends, is a delicious omelet. Now, what I like to do is put cheese on top, because it just tastes, I love a cheesy omelet. And the fact that it's dairy-free cheese makes that even better. So, hey, why not? But we're going to go ahead and let it continue to cook. Go ahead and let the heat get to the cheese so that the cheese can go ahead and start melting. And that's all we're waiting on now, baby. The omelet, everything, the work is done. The omelet is basically ready to be plated. And that's what, look at our plate, right on time. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that it's not sticking. Make sure the omelet keeps its texture and its shape, because you want your omelet folded and you want it neatly done. So everything else that remaining, I basically either put it on top of the omelet or a little extra bonus beside it. But basically it's done. Everything is ready. That omelet's finna be fire. And then here you go. You see that omelet? You see that thing? You see that omelet with that cheese? It hasn't melted quite yet, but it will. It looks delicious, and you'll see it is gonna be so good. Thank you for watching.